Hello friends, welcome back to Coding Search. In this video, I'm going to discuss about the identifiers and also I will mention the rules for the identifiers and explains the different types of identifiers. At last, I will also discuss or show the examples of identifiers. Before moving ahead, I would like to request you to please subscribe, share and like this video if you have not yet subscribed, and also press the bell button. Like in our daily life, everything has some name associated with it. So in C also, identifiers are just some text or a string to identify various entities like array, function, variables, user defined data type and labels. Friends, there are specific rules for naming the identifiers in C language, like we cannot use any keywords as an identifier. All the identifiers should have a unique name in the same scope. Identifiers cannot start with digit. The first character of the identifier should always start with an alphabet or underscore, and then it can be followed by any of the characters, digits or underscore. The special characters such as star, hash, at the rate, dollar are not allowed within an identifier. All the identifiers are case sensitive, means hello in lowercase and hello containing the uppercase. These two are treated differently in C language. However, both names are identical, but one has a lowercase alphabet and the other has an uppercase alphabet. Length of identifier should not exceed 31 characters, and any blank spaces or commas are not allowed within an identifier. Friends, here are some examples of valid identifiers like length. In length, it contains only the lowercase alphabet, whereas total sum, it contains underscore over here, and underscore size is also identifier that starts with underscore. Num1 is an identifier that contains digit but at last, and num underscore 2 is also an identifier in lowercase that contains underscore as well as 2, that is a digit. So the valid identifiers follow every single rule of the naming convention of the identifiers. Now let us see some example of invalid identifiers. Here are some examples of invalid C identifiers like 5 size. This is invalid because it begins with a digit. As we discussed, that any identifier cannot start with a digit. So this is a invalid identifier. In second identifier, it starts with backslash at the rate hello. As we discussed that any identifier cannot have a special character like at the rate. So this is also invalid identifier. Here the identifier name is int. It is also invalid because we know that int is a keyword in C language, and in this identifier mn there is a white space, that means it contains a blank space or gap, and at last m plus n cannot be a valid identifier. It's invalid because it contains a special character, that is plus. So you can say that the invalid identifiers are those identifiers that do not follow every single rule of the naming convention of identifier. Now let us see about the types of identifiers in C language. There are two types of identifiers in C language. One is internal identifiers and the second is external identifier. Before discussing internal identifiers and external identifiers, we should know about the external linkage process and internal linkage process. So let us see what are the external linkage process and internal linkage process. When we write an implementation file in C language, like when we write the .c program or the source code, the compiler generates a translation unit. A translation unit is a source file that is the combination of both the implementation file and all the header files. Whereas internal linkage refer to everything only in the scope of a translation unit. In contrast, external linkage refers to a whole program that combines all the translation unit, or you can say the object files. Now let us see what is internal identifiers. Internal identifiers, also known as internal names, include the name of the local variables. The internal identifiers can be a local variable and it has at least 31 significant characters. External identifiers are the ones that are used in external link processes. These identifiers are also known as external names that includes function names and global variable names that are shares between the source files. It has at least 63 significant characters. Here in this example, you can see the identifiers used in this C code or C program. Like add is the identifier used for the function name. Num1 and num2 used in the argument list of add function, that is also identifier name. And in this main method, this character is also a identifier, and double underscore number is also a identifier. Long identifier to store sum is also an identifier containing 5 words joined with underscores. This is arr, a double R is identifier used for array. So let me summarize what I have discussed in this video. Like identifier is a string used to define or identify an entity like array name, function name, variables name, etc. And identifier is a user-defined keyword that is not already defined in the programming language and is defined by the user. Identifier should always be unique, means no two identifiers have the same name, and identifiers should not be the same as the keywords. Like I discussed that keywords cannot be used in identifier which are already defined in the programming language. Means keywords are reserved words in C language that is used for predefined purpose. So friends, this is all about the identifiers. Thank you very much for watching this video. Have a good time.